Hey dude, don't bogart that zombie takeout. What's up? Welcome to episode 242 of Zombie Takeout,
Zombie takeout.
the B-movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listeners submitted. This first one is from Gabe McBride on our Facebook page in reference to Cabin in the Woods. It was a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to address it because we found some new information that answers a question that I had. He said, "Hey guys, just listen to episode 240. I thought Kevin from the Big Word from when Jenkins and Bradley Whitford were taking bets would be the Cabin in the Woods version of Jason from Friday the 13th. Of course, I've been known to be wrong, but the other creatures in the movie all seem to be riffs on specific monsters or archetypes, and Kevin being the character from Sin City seems a little spot on. Nitpicking, I know. Keep up the good work." Now, before we recorded tonight, you found some information about that.
Well, yeah, I had to research this because none of us seemed to. I mean, we all had different stories and
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
really sure. But according to a reliable source known as cabininthewoods.wikia.com,
Hmm.
Kevin is a sweet-looking guy who on the surface appears normal, but underneath is a psychotic killer who dismembers people. He is summoned by a film strip.
Which
If someone
answers my question about the film strip.
if someone looks at the entire film strip. I wonder if each film strip that was hanging there, though, summoned a different person.
That's a good point. Maybe it was just one long reel. Maybe it was just a
Could be.
really long summoning.
Could be. He is not seen during the purge, but he's in one of the deleted scenes.
Ah.
In the novelization, Kevin is described as a quiet, normal-looking person with a small smile on his face, who calmly walks through the post-purge chaos until he comes across an injured guard. He then proceeds to, quote, exsanguinate him in a second.
For those unfamiliar with the term, that means relieve him of his blood.
When Dana finds the guard, he appears, quote, untarnished, but Dana never seen anyone, quote, any more dead, unquote. Due to his unremarkable appearance, any normal-looking human seen in the purge could be Kevin.
Mhm.
Kevin may be a reference to Sin City's Kevin, who fits the same description.
Yes.
And there's a popular Canadian cartoon called Kevin Spencer.
Oh. So perhaps it's a multiple reference.
But director's comments reveal it is most like the character Kevin from the novel We Need to Talk About Kevin, in which the child Kevin displays sadistic, violent tendencies.
Oh, so something else completely. Interesting. And the director is one of the co-writers, so I'm assuming he knows what they were referencing.
And that's one to grow.
Yes. And I need to see that deleted scene.
Oh, yeah.
And one more bit of listener submitted. This is from Diana Stevens, also on Facebook, in reference to the polyester trailer. She said, "I remember seeing this at the theaters. It was shocking and a work of mad film art made from human leftovers. It stood out from the shining empire of Raygunism," and then she spells that Raygunism.
I imagine that was shocking as hell back then, yeah.
Like we had said, it was very transgressive for its time, but,
Yeah.
35 years later, it just doesn't quite seem that way. Or it's not quite as
Right.
powerful in that sense. Anyway, on to this week's movie, continuing our all request quadrilogy with from 1985 Ghoulies. This was requested by Jen Miller. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Creepy Old Houses. If you inherit a creepy old house, just sell it. You'll be much happier that way.
And also brought to you by 30-somethings. In the 1980s, they make perfect college students.
Hmm. And apparently 40-somethings made perfect 30-somethings, at least based on the TV show.
Based on the TV show, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Peter Lipaeus, is that how you say it? Was like 35.
Yeah.
He's like, I think I'm going to drop out this semester. All right. So we have a house in the woods. Um, it's been purchased by, well, actually, no, it's been inherited by this young, quote unquote, young man. And
Imagine the father from Blossom, maybe 5, 10 years younger, because they do
yeah,
look a lot alike.
yeah, you're right. You're right. I was somewhere between a young Sam Neill or
Mm.
a rougher Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, that really fits it well.
Yeah, I was bouncing back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
Remembering Sam Neill when he was younger from like one of those Omen movies. So he inherits this creepy ass house. There's so much satanic symbolism throughout the house, yet nobody seems to be hip on it.
No, no, he's actually kind of carefully uncovering all of it, and he's kind of interested, which is a little disturbing.
Well, right, the more he finds, the more he gets interested. His girlfriend is absolutely clueless.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, we should mention the movie opens with a scene where with a ceremony where a baby's almost sacrificed, but the mother and just one other guy fight the evil priest to take the kid away and take him over, somewhere safe. And then we get the 30-year-old college student with the new house.
um, right, so he um, he invites friends over for a party
Mhm.
because why not?
The archetypes.
Yes, this is where you get the archetypes. You know what? Let's go. Who was it that made that comment about Cabin in the Woods? Because I feel like we should talk about it in the plot
Mm.
summary.
Gabe McBride it was.
It was Gay McBride. This is it.
Yeah.
Right here. This is the prequel to
Oh
Cabin
no,
in the
the
Woods.
prequel was Matt Goranson last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, this is it right here, though.
Yeah.
I've got a full idea for a script in this where, I mean, the Harbinger is, you know, doesn't actually say anything to them.
Mm.
Which, think about that scene. Like, you take Bradley Whitford and have them like, what the fuck? The Harbinger didn't say anything. What the fuck is wrong with him? Why did he's supposed to be the Harbinger and yet he just stared? What he
So
forgot his lines.
the caretaker guy, you mean?
Right.
Torgo.
Right.
Because this
So
is also, in addition to the Manos, or in addition to the Cabin in the Woods prequel, this is also the Manos prequel. This is like Manos the
sequel.
early years,
Yeah.
or maybe a sequel. Maybe the next generation could work
Right.
either way.
But yeah, I'm just totally thinking of like a What's Up Tiger Lily thing of somebody buying this movie
Yeah.
and cutting it up and putting, them in there and just having the arguments of things going wrong. And of course, they wind up all, well, spoiler, they wind up all living in the end.
Well, yeah. But we have two fools and no real scholar though.
He would be the scholar.
Okay, he would be. Yeah, you're
Jonathan
right. You're right. He would be the
would be
scholar.
is the scholar.
Yeah.
Um, the girlfriend's as close to a virgin as you're gonna get,
Yeah.
probably. There were a couple virgins in there. It
Yeah.
felt
There are a
like,
couple possibilities there.
yeah.
We don't really have the athlete either.
No, we are shy and alpha male in this, really.
Yeah. And
But
we've got a
anyway,
couple of fools. Anyway, continue.
he takes the archetypes and has them for dinner. Well, I mean,
Hmm.
they have this strange dinner, and then they're transported into where he goes to
Oh, you jumped
summon
ahead a
shit.
lot.
Yeah, I did. They have two dinner scenes, or
Mm.
they have a party scene, then a dinner scene.
You're talking about like the last half hour now.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, they have a party scene, but nothing really happens there. So except he starts summoning stuff.
Hmm.
He reads more up on it, invites them back for a dinner. Which God, I would love to see someone mash up their dinner scene
Yeah.
with the time warp.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Just I mean, just a Rocky Horror thing going on there because
And of
they're all
course,
wearing
and
well,
of
the
course,
set looks similar,
yeah, yeah,
and they're all wearing sunglasses.
right. And the earlier scene, the party scene, of course, they had to have because it's the '80s.
Yes.
There has to be a random party scene.
And I meant to like check up the ages of the other people, but they are all like almost our age. It
Really?
felt like that's what it felt like. Some
Mariska
of them.
Hargitay had to be younger.
Well, yeah, she was.
Because
This
she
is
was
like
just
her
starting
first
out.
role.
Yeah.
It was her first role. She was like 19, 20 years old. She
Okay.
was like the only person in this whole thing
Mhm.
that was actually age appropriate. Everybody else felt like they were
Yeah.
closer to our age than college
Yeah.
students. Like especially the stoner guy with his own sunglasses.
Yeah. Right.
That dude looked old.
Yeah.
I don't know what his age is, but he looked old.
Probably part of the reason he had him wearing the sunglasses in every scene.
Exactly. That is exactly what I was thinking. He had probably the bags under his eyes.
Mhm.
So yeah, they come back and they have this bizarre dinner scene that's very similar to the set of Rocky Horror, at least. You almost expect him to pull the tablecloth off to
Yeah.
reveal meatloaf
Right.
on the table. Uh, they finally get his father summoned back. Well, he invites himself back, I guess,
Sort
af-
of.
after all of these other creatures and hilarity
Mhm.
ensues.
Now, that opening flashback scene, a couple of things occurred to me. First of all, the robes of the sort of head priest were
Yeah.
almost Manos funny.
Like,
I
I
mean, they weren't quite Manos because he's got the big hand, but they were close.
see Uncle John is not familiar with the Steak and Shake until
Oh,
tonight, if that
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
the Steak and Shake ad campaign.
Mhm.
But for those of you who live here in the Midwest, or I'm sure they have Steak and Shakes elsewhere.
I've heard of the franchise. They just don't have them here, so we don't get the ads.
The ad campaign is this kung fu master talking about the ways of the menu and whatnot, and just the hair and the robes reminded me. That's all I was thinking
Yeah.
of the whole time I was watching his father on the screen, especially when he had the zombie face in the end.
See, the thing I was thinking about in that earlier scene, aside from how funny the robes were, when is the rest of Power Station going to show up? Because it was played by Michael DeVar, who filled in for Robert Palmer in Power Station when they were on the road.
Oh, I was trying to figure out where I knew him
He
from.
was Palmer's fill-in when they toured.
Okay. Was he on the second album too, or
No, I
oh
think Palmer came back for that. From what I recall, I only listened to it the one time.
yeah, I only made it through that once myself too.
But I'm pretty sure that was Palmer. Another thing I was wondering about, because there's kind of a chest burster scene when he kills someone,
Oh,
and they don't show the actual burst. They show, it coming through her chest and the skin kind of starting to crack, and then they cut away. And I'm wondering if that was a budget thing or if they just didn't want to directly rip off Alien
Indiana
so
Jones.
egregiously. Or yeah, actually, I think a ghoulie was going to come out. We weren't, they didn't establish that, but
Okay, when the hell did they call them Ghoulies?
never in the movie. That's just the title.
Right. It seems very tacked on,
Hmm.
the title.
Bit of trivia about that.
Okay.
The original Ghoulies originated, wonderful writing there, in '83 under the title Beasties, and was to be directed by Charles Band, who also directed Trancers and Metal Storm: Destruction of Jared Sin, which we reviewed.
Wow.
And here's the interesting part, with special effects by Stan Winston,
Huh.
who, is a legend.
Now, I mean, Ghoulies and Beasties are really terrible names for
Yes.
this movie.
And originated in '83, which means they couldn't have been biting off of Gremlins with Beasties.
It felt like when they were going with that they were trying to cash in on it, the name. But it it's nothing like
Mhm.
Gremlins. It just doesn't make any sense.
Incidentally, it ended up being directed by Luco Bercovici, with special effects by John Carl Buechler. So, neither Band nor Winston ended up involved. They just started it. The scene with the gremlin coming out of the toilet was actually created for the poster. Band claims in one interview that he came up with it, in another one he claims that someone else came up with it. But the scene was put into the movie because it was put on the poster, and they basically wanted to make the movie appeal to teenagers.
Yeah. There are other things you put in movies to make it appeal to teenagers.
Yeah, which was not in this movie, unfortunately.
Did they even curse in this movie?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either. It was very bizarre. the subject matter they were broaching on, but at the same time, the blood count or the splatter was not there. It
No,
all
no.
happened. A lot of the splatter happened off screen, with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
exception of the one scene when the father came back and mowed down everybody in short order, pretty much.
Mhm. And I've been catching up on Game of Thrones over the last couple of days, so the lack of splatter was even more apparent.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been hacking away at people.
Oh. Oh, by the way, Jeffrey Combs auditioned for Jonathan.
Oh my God.
How amazing would that have been?
How do you turn him down?
Yeah. Well,
But
the movie was 85, so what they were probably doing auditions in 84. He was probably just coming off of Reanimator, so he wasn't Jeffrey Combs yet.
but you see his acting though.
Yes, he's perfect for the role, but apparently, I don't know, they decided on
Was he too young?
possibly.
Was he not? Did he
Well,
not have his AARP membership?
yeah, he really was in his 20s around that time, I would imagine.
Right.
Also, this movie made me realize something.
But
I am in no way, shape, or form nostalgic for 80s visual effects. You know, the blue lighting and the sort of white, obvious, old school CG does nothing for me.
I was kind of uncomfortable with the creatures in this, and
Really?
not for like the scary reason.
Right. Or
Kind
yeah,
of,
the reason that they're supposed to be just kind of gross, but not for that reason.
it was more of like, oh, the dude who did this was like really proud of this too. It kind of looked
Yeah.
like, it kind of just looked like a really bad episode of Gumby or something, you know?
You know how a hairless cat looks kind of wrong compared to a normal cat?
Yeah,
That's how these creatures look compared to gremlins.
right.
Although I think this would have actually been a halfway decent story if they got rid of the ghoulies and
Yes.
just had Jonathan kind of, succumb to the sorcery and just unleash all sorts of pain and suffering and destroy everybody's life and go that direction with it. Forget the cute little monsters.
Yeah, definitely. The cute little monsters did not belong in this at all.
Also would have been way better without the colorful friends, the archetypes.
Oof. Yeah.
Particularly as I was thinking of them, the Belushi twins, the two fools, because they were both playing Belushi kind of roles.
I'd say the one with the glasses was Bellucci, and the other one was Aykroyd.
Okay, yeah, he does fit Aykroyd, you're right. More so the kind of, wannabe ladies man.
Right.
And Toad Boy was just embarrassing.
Yeah.
The women in the cast, the female characters were perfectly normal, but they had to throw these four really bizarre male characters in.
It just seemed Mariska Hargitay was hilarious in
Yeah.
this. I was not expecting that.
Mm.
The last person I was expecting to see in this movie, I think.
She looked really familiar when I started watching it. I could not place her. I had to look it up. And
Christopher Walken coming into this would have been more expected. Mariska Hargitay.
yeah. Not that she doesn't look good now, she does, but damn, she looked good back then.
Yes.
Now, one scene did strike me as particularly amusing. At one point, Rebecca, the girlfriend, walks in on Jonathan summoning, and she didn't know what he was up to at this point. She had no clue. And if you look at it out of context, you just read the script, it reads exactly like she had just walked in on him in drag.
Or I mean, masturbating,
Yeah,
anything.
a lot of things, but she actually refers to the robe at one point.
Oh, you're right.
It's like she'd walked in on him trying on her clothing.
This should have been a comedy.
If they had played this as a comedy, it would have been way better.
Like Weird Al should have been the lead.
Yeah,
Should have done this instead of UHF, maybe.
hmm Oh, could you imagine him as in the Michael DeVar role? That
Oh,
would have been awesome.
I thought he'd been young enough to have been
Oh,
Jonathan.
wait, you're right. He would have been too young. Now, okay, sequels and remakes. We'll get to that. Also, apparently, and they just kind of stuck this in last minute. The ghoulies can't be seen through sunglasses. Was that just some convenience, or was
No,
there
I
some
don't
kind
even.
of logic there?
What was
Because
the
that's why
point
they
of
were wearing.
any of that?
That's why they were wearing sunglasses at the dinner scene, so that, the ghoulies could come out of the food, which apparently they'd tainted somehow, and not be seen.
What was the point of any of that? I mean, that was just all an excuse to reenact the dinner scene from Rocky Horror, was it not?
Pretty much. And to that cool, and I say that sarcastically, effect where they suddenly teleported to the sacred circle,
Oh,
and then apparently came right back to the dinner scene and didn't remember a thing.
right.
Oh, also, what was with the narrator popping in like three times only?
I completely forgot there was a narrator. Oh, you're right. It was
The guy who
the
rescued him.
Harbinger.
Well, no, I thought it was the guy who rescued him.
Yeah, that
Which
was the
could, oh,
Harbinger.
that was the Harbinger. I never connected that. That makes sense.
Or he was supposed to have been the Harbinger, but he fucked it up.
Well, yeah,
That's what I was thinking of. Like, I've got this great screenplay for this now.
that explains the ending because I was kind of thrown off by the Torgo suddenly being a sorcerer as well. But
Well,
if
yeah,
he was the guy who rescued him, that makes sense.
yeah, and he's been watching over him all these
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and yet he gives him no warning
No,
when he comes into the house. Like, it just didn't make any sense.
yeah.
He's there to protect him, but he can't say anything when he comes into the house.
Mhm.
Like, beware,
Yeah,
that was supposed to be the Harbinger scene.
right.
So this,
That's when he's supposed to utter the weird cryptic shit that's supposed to make Jonathan run away.
right. Or them just scoffing, huh?
Yeah. Well, obviously Jonathan doesn't run away, otherwise there's no movie, but
Well,
you're at least supposed to give him the option.
it's right. You're supposed to give him the option. He's supposed to scoff and make some joke and be cavalier about it,
Hmm.
and then go in and do it anyway.
But he shows up as the narrator like three or four times. And each time it happens, it's kind of weird and off-putting because you forgot about the previous time.
Well, right. And when he does, like, there was nothing I could do at this point. Like, you haven't done anything before this point. You suck.
Yeah, pretty much.
What's wrong with you? And then when you come to save the day, why are you dressed like Liberace?
Yeah, he also had very silly robes.
Yes.
Then again, can you really do not silly robes in a movie like this?
It, come on, though. Were they like
Unless they're
blue
just black or
glittery
white.
robes, I think?
Well, yeah, and I guess you could do white, black, gray, solid color. That wouldn't be
Right.
too silly.
He's wearing like these glittery blue
Yeah,
robes,
true.
like something they stole from Ozzy Osbourne
In like,
around this time.
well, actually, it
Yes.
would have been a little later. Ozzy would have gotten them from the movie because Ozzy was doing that in like the late '80s. Yeah, around Ultimate Sin.
Yeah.
Also, and I think this is really the big problem with the movie. It doesn't live up to the promise of the trailer and name until like the last 20 minutes. That's when we get, the random, ghoulies showing up and causing havoc. And we don't even get much of that.
Well, when there was only 15 minutes left and most of the people were still alive,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, what? That doesn't leave much room for anything.
Hmm.
So I was wondering where the fuck it was going. And that's when the father comes back
Hmm.
and pretty much just takes everybody out left and right.
Right. He does all the killing.
Yeah.
He also, at one point, masks himself as a woman, has effectively Dan Aykroyd kiss him. And I thought he was going to turn back into himself and like scare the guy, but no, they missed that opportunity.
No, because it's better to kill him than to be kissing a dude, I guess.
Yeah, at least play that gag where he turns back into himself and gives him the, makes the guy, lose his shit and then kill him. At least give
There's
the
so many
brief
movies
laugh.
that do that, I think, where
Well, yeah,
where they do what was it, the one, like, was it Deathstalker,
probably.
where the guy turns into the woman and you're expecting them to have the awkward moment,
Right,
and instead some sort of violence erupts
right.
to spare the audience.
Oh, also, I have to nitpick a stunt. The only thing I'm nitpicking in this movie.
What?
When Rebecca dies, she does so by falling down the stairs. Her head doesn't even touch the stairs on the way down. And it's really obvious. They don't even shoot it from like an obtuse angle where you can't see her really falling. They show the stunt person just very carefully rolling down the stairs and then suddenly she's dead.
Boo boo. Boo boo. Boo boo.
Hmm.
My nitpick is, did they really have to name them Graves?
Good point. Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
mention that. I have it in my notes. Yeah.
I get it. He's dead underground. They're named
Yeah,
Graves.
yeah. It's a horror
Yeah.
film, so someone has to be named something scary.
So I could just see, because I've spoiled it already that they all live.
Of,
But but and that's the worst thing about this probably is
well,
that
they
they
all.
get mowed down,
Mhm.
but then they're all alive.
Well, yeah, they get resurrected at the end. But of
So
course, they have to throw in the Big I Smell sequel at the end where they're all in the car coming back, having survived it, and then the car ends up full of ghoulies.
now just imagine if we're doing Cabin in the 80s
Hmm.
and they have like young Bradley Whitford arguing with someone else
Hmm. Rich
about
Jenkins with a piece.
right about who the fuck let them all go.
But then they'd have to kill them because it would negate the more recent movie.
Well, somebody else, another country saved the day.
Oh, okay, good, good. That works, yeah.
They could just end it like, thank God the fucking Canadians, at least killed off their bunch.
Mhm.
You guys make me sick. I
Actually,
lost, I lost 5,000 on this.
actually, no, it's not the Canadians. It has to be the Japanese schoolgirls.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Just to reference the gag in the first movie, which I saw a great parody or reference to a news story about American Idol being canceled. And then next to it, a still from that scene with the schoolgirl saying the evil has been defeated.
So yeah,
Particularly amusing because we just did Cabin in the Woods. And
so
I love that scene.
that's my movie.
All right, on to sequels and remakes.
On to sequels and remakes, and I believe there's been a
Three
bunch for
sequels.
this.
Ghoulies 2. Ghoulies Go to College, which has to be the comedy, and that I'm kind of curious to see.
That does sound
And
hilarious.
Ghoulies 4. By
They
the
go in
way,
space?
they don't specify, but 4 is traditionally the space movie.
You know what needs to happen here?
Well, real quick, Ghoulies 4 is notable because instead of the usual puppet ghoulies, they cast little people
Oh,
in
wow.
costumes.
You know what needs to happen here, though?
Mhm.
We need a Ghoulies versus Leprechauns.
Yes. And then have the critters come in and just kill everybody.
Oh, I was thinking the Gremlins.
Okay. Yeah, actually, we bring in the critters, they try, and then the gremlins just house everybody. You're right. Yeah. That's really the proper ending.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking comedic remake with Weird Al as the father.
Weird Al as Malcolm,
Yeah.
or the Steak and Shake guy.
Hmm. Or the guy who toured the power station.
Oh, yeah.
And you deliberately cast older. Have Mariska Hargitay retain her role, reprise her role.
I now have to look up and see if anyone's asked her about this movie.
Well, I mean, it's early in her career. Everybody does shit like this early on. Billy
Yeah,
Bob Thornton was in a trauma film for crying out
right.
loud. You can't really hold it against anybody. You take the jobs you can get.
Oh, of course, but it was crazy Seeger in
Oh
this.
yeah, of course. All right, Underbrains.
On to Brains.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't exactly like it. There were some okay performances, but overall very disappointing. I'm going 1.5.
Oh well, I mean, I'll make no bones about this. This was a terrible movie.
Hmm.
They even they one thing we didn't mention, they steal a bunch of Star Wars references or drop a bunch of Star Wars references in there.
I didn't catch any of them.
they they even use the old man line when the Harbinger and Robert Palmer are fighting.
I completely missed them. I'm kind of tempted to skim through it to see if I can catch any
He
of them.
even uses the same inflection. It's something like, "What are you doing here, old man?"
Huh.
And yeah, there's just someone thought they were really making solid gold, and It was just it was very cringe-inducing and a train wreck that I think you got to see. I'll go for.
Wow. All right. By the way, you mentioned, it was what they thought they were making solid gold. I suspect it's a case of too much involvement with, studios and too many producers and yada yada, where
Oh,
they
definitely.
started off with a halfway decent idea or at least something entertaining, and it just got watered down to this.
There's so much of that could have been done here. There could have been a great psychological drama here.
Hmm.
There could have been, I mean, a horror movie,
I mean,
obviously.
clearly they were going for the little monsters from the beginning, but even that could have been entertaining.
Were they really?
Well, it was originally called Beasties.
The little monsters seem very tacked in
Yeah.
still,
Mhm.
don't they? I
Yeah.
mean, uh,
I mean, I had like 5 titles that referenced Gremlins that really didn't fit because I was expecting more of them.
they were completely unnecessary and could all be edited out just about,
Yeah,
with the
pretty much.
exception
Of the
of,
two actual people, the two
yeah,
little people.
those were the only ones that made a difference. How were those little people supposed to even kill somebody? Like, what were they,
Well,
like, what was their power?
they were demons, so I guess they could, use magic or something.
Like, one had like a snout or something, or a dick on his face. I don't know.
I didn't
I don't
catch
know
that.
what kind of power that was supposed to have been, other than look like, you
Mhm,
know, a nasty creature.
mhm.
But yeah, there's just so much wrong here that it's really damn funny.
All right, so what have we learned?
We learned that you really need to clean those contacts, or you might get some sort of greenish glow to them.
Mhm. And I learned that Michael DeBar wasn't just the guy who toured with Power Station. Apparently, he was also a mediocre B-movie actor.
He was in the new WKRP.
Oh God, I vaguely remember that. I remember French Stewart as the new Johnny Fever. That's about it.
Wow, that I have to
And
look that
because
up.
it was the first thing I'd ever seen French Stewart in.
When I was scanning the IMDb, that was the only thing that really jumped out at me, and I'm like, oh, I remember him. I think he might have been like the married couple or something.
Oh wow. That's something I'm almost tempted to see if I could find on YouTube.
He's apparently had a guest spot in like everything
Uh-huh.
for the past like 40 years.
Wow. All right. So until next time, and we'll be reviewing Wolf Cop, finishing up our request quadrilogy with a request from Weston DeTillo, apparently in penance for our April Fool's Day gag or something like that.
I actually have a little bit of news. I'll be making an appearance somewhere. I'm not sure how much of an appearance it will be, but I will be at a screening of Mother's Milk on
Oh,
Tuesday,
oh, very good.
where I hope to get some of our questions off if there's like a QA session.
Mhm. Nice. All right, so until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of our listeners, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review, up through, well, at least in order, up through Time of Eve, our next anime film. You'll also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. We'll get to it. And of course, the recommendation list. I had no idea this was even going to come close. That was quite the shock.
It's just the train wreck.
Mm.
Train wreck quality alone.
Of course, you can also email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged,
You can go fuck yourself.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I totally forgot to mention this in the episode. I just remembered after I hit the stop button. But and you verified this. The first episode came out on May 13th, 2009, and as I look at my clock on my computer at 11:59, it is p.m. It is May 13th, 2015, which means this is our 6th anniversary episode.
That's amazing. We completely forgot that.
Yeah, I
Like,
was actually thinking about it. I think the movie cleared my brain too much.
we knew it was soon, but
Mhm. I
damn.
knew it was within a week or two. I was thinking maybe it was next week, but no, it's this week. 242 in 6 years. I think that's pretty good.
This is our front episode also.
Our front episode?
Yes.
You said that when I just realized that it was the 6th anniversary. I didn't give you a chance to explain that off air, so continue.
Oh, it's 242.
Oh, front 242. Okay. I think Stomp 242,
Oh,
Anthrax. Either way, yeah, it's a musical reference.
yeah.
So yeah, 6 years, 242 movies. I think I did the math, and that means like we missed less than a year's worth.
Wow. Well, right. So it would be 312.
Oh, 300 roughly. Yeah. So
312 movies. So
yeah, less than a year's worth.
we've taken 70 weeks off.
Oh, okay, a little more than a year, but that's counting for what 6 weeks every year that we plan. A couple months in the first or second year when my computer broke.
I mean, that's not bad if you think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
300, I mean, 71 weeks off out of 312. I mean,
That's a pretty damn good average. And
we've had things where I've moved.
well, no, you moved when we were doing TAS. Oh no, you moved within Chicago a couple of
Yes, I
times
did.
while we've
Yes.
been doing the show.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've moved. We've had internet situations, both
Right.
of us.
Plenty of times, particularly early on. My computer broke and we had to take a break for like 2 months because I was
Hospital
dealing with a
visits.
5-year-old laptop. Yeah. Illness of various kinds, most notably 2 weeks off in 2012, when Mrs. Scotto was in the hospital.
Yes.
2 weeks off when well, 2 years
Did
where
we
I
only
took
take
2 weeks off. We took 4 months, 4 weeks off, but two of them were planned.
Did we only take 2 weeks off when Mrs. Scotto was in the hospital?
We had 4 weeks off actually, but it
I
was
was
the
gonna
usual
say,
2 weeks off for July 4th and your birthday. And then we were going to come back after those 2 weeks, but she was in the hospital, so it was
so it was like 4 weeks out.
yeah.
Okay.
It ended
I
up
was gonna
being
say,
it was 4 weeks total, but 2 weeks unplanned.
because I spent a lot of time in the hospital too there.
But I mean, summer of I think it was 2013, because it was when I quit smoking. I was sick for a while. I had to take 2 weeks off. I had to take 2 weeks off a few weeks ago because I was sick again. Um, so I mean, only 70 in 6 years with all of that is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Considering how many weeks off or time off employed people get for this.
Yeah. And we haven't even made any money, well, except for $50 from Bruce Sardi back in the
Thank you.
first year. Yes, thank you, Bruce. All right, enough patting ourselves on the back. See you next week.
See you next week.